Hi, this is Celeste Taylor, and you found yourself in the Gay Teachers Lounge. Whether you're in the shower, getting a pedicure, or drying dishes, I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you get a few takeaways. Ring, ring, class is in session. Today's guest is a middle school band director in Texas in her fifth year of teaching, and she sees all 260 of her students every single day. As a fine arts teacher, she has the rare gift of building multi-year relationships with students during one of the most tender, awkward, and formative stages of life. She's also a lesbian educator who navigates visibility with care, answering honestly when asked, signaling safety in quiet ways, and choosing discretion when it protects both her students and herself. In our conversation, we talk about what it means to be the queer adult you needed at 12 years old, the power of consistency and trust in middle school spaces, and how simply existing without making a speech can change a child's life. She shares unforgettable stories about students finding their voices, challenging assumptions, and discovering courage through music. And we don't shy away from the realities of teaching queer in a state where policy often lags behind compassion. Welcome to the Gay Teachers Lounge, Alex.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. This is so exciting.
So happy to have you. And it's funny, I have to say this at the beginning. I swear, out of say 100 questionnaires I have gotten recently, I'm gonna say half of y'all are from Texas.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's so interesting that probably in Florida too, and Texas and Louisiana and Utah, and so many states that have so many laws based in bigotry against queer people, that there are just so many, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
mind-boggling to me on one hand. So getting into this, I taught sixth grade for a year. It was in a K-6 elementary school, and those kids challenged me more than any year or experience I've ever had. So I know
Yeah.
middle schoolers will humble you faster than anyone. And so I'm wondering what's something teaching that age group has taught you about yourself.
So, dude, sixth grade is so funny. All of middle school is so funny. So the campus that I teach at is sixth through eighth. So I get to see them in sixth grade. That's when they start their band journey is in sixth grade for us. And dude, middle schoolers are just they're sentient, but they're not at the same time.
Right. I
Um,
understand that.
Yes, I don't have a whole lot of memories from elementary school, but everybody that I've talked to is like, oh, I remember middle school. I remember everything about middle school. And so it's really cool to see how they have real opinions and real struggles, and they're kind of turning into real people who socialize with more of like the rules that we think that you have to go by in society. They're learning all of the ins and outs of social interaction. So it kind of holds up a mirror, I guess,
Mm.
to me as an adult being like, okay, yeah, I remember that. I remember having to go through that when I was in middle
Mm.
school. They're also just super malleable still.
Mm.
It's really interesting to see the dichotomy of them becoming more into themselves versus what they hear from their parents or the internet still. It's so funny. Every election year, and it's even funny because it happens with the midterms too. It's so weird. But they'll sit there and these kids who are so justice driven will come to me and tell me how much they hate Kamala Harris because their parents do, you know?
Wow.
And I remember being that kid in Texas whose parents are Republican,
Mm.
talking about how I want Mitt Romney to win, you know? I
Oh
know.
my
I
gosh.
remember, I remember my band director looking at me in the eye and being like, Alex, I want you to tell me that exact same thing in 10 years. And so I'll look at some of these kids and be like, I want you to tell me that
Mm,
exact same thing in 10 years, knowing that because you see some of these kids and you know that they're different,
yeah.
whether they're, on the spectrum and they haven't been diagnosed or they are queer.
Hmm.
And you as a teacher, you know before some of them do.
Yeah, for sure.
It's really cool to see from the outside just this storm of contradictions
Yes.
for a middle school kid and watching them
Yeah.
navigate that and kind of come into their own and I guess see more of how the world works versus when they were in elementary school.
Yeah.
So they teach me a lot. They teach me a lot of patience.
Patience among all things. Yes. Oof. I just remember and I'm not particularly religious anymore. I'm very spiritual. But before I would even open my classroom door every morning that year, I would just pray. I would just call upon a power greater than myself, and I would say every day, really, I'm not here. I cannot do this. I do not want to do this anymore. I need you to take it from here. Come on, come on. And I would just ask for all the powers that be to come in and help me because I had lost my patience with the kids probably month 2. Yeah, I think I was expecting a lot more from them than they were capable of at the time. I didn't actually give them any credit for only being 11 and possibly 12 years old. So I think if I were to ever teach 6th grade, which goodness gracious, I really hope I don't. But if I did, I would go in with a different mindset and just remind myself constantly, these are kids.
Oh yeah.
My situation though was I was working in a really tough neighborhood where the kids had to grow up on one hand very quickly, and so they thought they were tough. They thought they were tough shit. They thought that they knew everything when they didn't. And so there's that push pull of them really needing my help, but them not wanting my help, right? And so there was just a friction there, I think. But I know, so even just being in Texas, I just look at the whole state of Texas aside from Austin, which I know you're not in Austin. So I just look at the whole state of Texas, aside from Austin, as being really Trumpy MAGA. And I would be surprised if you told me your area isn't, but is it?
So it's really interesting because you get into some communities and it really is. And then you go one town south and there's rainbow flags in the yard. Signs for Beto everywhere still, even though he lost a long time ago, which we're
Yeah.
still really sad about. Yeah, it really depends. I'm in the North Texas area, so I'm north of Dallas. Dallas is a really blue part
Mm,
of Texas, which is really nice. Then you get a little bit further north, and definitely the more rural it is, the more you
mm,
start to see the changes in different counties and how red versus blue they are. But there are definitely good communities in everywhere that I've been,
mm,
which is really nice. The district that I work in is, well, let's say like in the past 10 years, this district has grown exponentially. I remember when I was in high school, because I didn't grow up too far from where I'm teaching now. It was very white, it was very small, it was very rural. And then it started to get more developed, more commercial buildings, more neighborhoods. And I think the admin was saying that our district is the like one of the fastest growing in the country right now, which is
wow.
crazy. In the past couple years, we've had 3 elementary schools open. We now have a second middle school, and our demographics are really different now too. So instead of it being a large majority of white students, I think it's about 36%, and then about 33% Hispanic, about 26% Black. And then we just have so many families moving in, and it's become a lot more diverse, which is really
Oh,
cool to see. Just you've got a kid whose family's lived in the area for generations versus a family coming in and the kids are best friends and their parents have two completely different sets of political ideologies. So it's kind of neat to navigate those conversations with them too, being in an educational setting. I do have to be aware of what I can and can't say, but it's fun to watch them talk to each other about those things.
Because I was actually getting at all of that just because I'm more curious about how your students engage with you. And because I know that, you're not necessarily out, like not broadcasting it to the whole school, but
Right.
would you say the bulk of your music students know that you're queer or no?
I'd say no. So my band students, I have about 260 of them, sixth through eighth. And I'd say probably about 10% have clocked it to where I know that they know and they know that I know kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that once a kid thinks they know, they'll tell another kid who tells another kid. And so I wouldn't be surprised if more knew, but
Mm-hmm.
right now it's not, oh, there's Miss Alex, she's the gay teacher, you know?
Okay. Yeah. And I'm figuring, do you know of any other queer educators on your campus?
Not on my campus, just I'm trying to think. I know on other campuses, some that are the staff in my district right now is ever evolving, just as it is with a lot of the nation right now, just with teacher shortages and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
normally when someone comes in and they are out, they normally move on pretty quickly.
Mm,
But
interesting.
yeah, isn't it?
Well, and that's what I was going to ask because I know you've been teaching now for 5 years or this is your fifth year. So I'm presuming you have permanent status. Oh, wait. No, it's a whole thing in Texas. I have to go back to my interview with, yep, another guest. Y'all don't have, you never get permanent status, do you? You only get up to 5 years. Is that right?
You said permanent status, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And this is what I
Yeah.
mean, I think on one hand, no job ever in any industry, doctors, whomever, professors, whomever, senators, whomever, nobody should have a lifelong position, especially if there's no checks and balances of sorts, right? There's no way to make sure that that person is still doing their job, just floating along and no one's checking in on them. So here in California, let's say I go back to teaching in the 2026-7 school year. That will be my first year with that district. But after I teach for 2 years in that district, and if I have a successful first 2 years, then I will have permanent status in that district. And it is extremely hard to fire me or any other teacher with permanent
Oh,
status.
okay.
So we have
Yeah.
protections.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
you're like, oh, that sounds nice. No.
Yeah.
But as far as I remember talking about with another guest, I've had actually two other guests from Texas. This is just going to become my Texas podcast, I guess, where I interview you all from Texas. One of them had said, no, there's nothing like that. When you first start out, you can get offered a 1 year contract. Then maybe you'll get offered a 2 year contract. And then I think she said the max was you'd be offered a 5 year contract at any
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So my school district does 1 year contracts, revolving.
Only 1 year, only 1 year.
Yeah, yeah, they go by a year. I think it's
Wow.
because in this area too, it's really difficult to go somewhere else if you want to break a contract.
Oh,
And so I know a lot of teachers because our area is really competitive as far as the fine arts goes. I'm in a really band heavy area in Texas, which is cool for me, but I know that there's just a lot of revolving positions. So they keep it 1 year, I guess, because it's easier to switch. I don't know why they wouldn't try to incentivize, right? But
yeah.
in my school district, it is pretty difficult to get flat out fired unless you really offend somebody that's super high up. And I'm really lucky that my admin on my campus, they know, they're supportive. It's not a super big thing. I also have really good band staff that work because I'm an assistant band director, and my head band director, she's one of my best friends. She's awesome, super supportive. I'm really lucky that the staff that I work with doesn't actively try to
Yeah.
push me out for those things.
Right. Yeah, true.
I'm
I
in,
mean,
I'm in a really privileged place to be able to not be afraid about the like other adults.
Mm.
around me.
Yeah, although I know you were talking about you knowing that a few doors down from you is a teacher who's just been dying to put those Ten Commandments up on the wall.
Dude, we were in PLC and they were like, "Hey, you got to put these up on your wall." Because okay, so what had happened was they said, "Hey, every school district has to do this." And then one of the school districts that's a little bit south of me said, "Hey, no, we're suing you. You can't do that." And so they put a pause on it unless you got them donated by
Mm.
somebody in the district who would pay to print all 17,000 of them to put in all of the classrooms. And so that's what happened to us. We were one of the school districts that had a generous benefactor print out 1 million of those posters and they said, "Hey, you have to put this in your wall." So it's in a
No.
it's in a corner. But I I got this idea from TikTok. I went to Canva and I basically made a bunch of other like world religions
Okay.
doctrines. And
Yeah.
I went and I got those printed out and they're hanging up with the other Ten Commandments. So in our
Nice.
band hall, we have a world religions wall, which is really weird. But
World Religion Song. And no one has said anything to you about that. That's
mm-mm,
shocking.
no. Our band hall's pretty big though, so it's like tucked into a not an inconspicuous place because they told us it has to be in a conspicuous location.
Right.
But it's over by like a practice room door or something. So I haven't gotten anything said to me. But no, this lady who was like, "I've been waiting 20 years for us to be able to put this in our classrooms." It's like
Oh my goodness.
you've been a public school teacher for 20 years and you want this to happen.
Good
But
grief.
in Texas,
Yeah,
yeah. So
exactly.
there is that, like, I'm not gonna go around wearing a shirt that says I'm gay
Right.
for reasons like that. The people who are close to me and who I know are super supportive. Like, I'll let y'all into my personal life a little bit.
Mm, I am wondering how you reconcile that other side, right? Like working with people you know who actively have beliefs that are bigoted. How do you reconcile that and how do you engage with them?
I'm really protective of my life outside of school as is. You know, I've
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
always been a more private person, especially with peers, like other adults, other teachers. And so I get to compartmentalize. And when I'm speaking with them, it is a very professional conversation. We're talking about band, we're talking
Mm,
about school, we're talking about standardized tests, we're talking about anything other than what goes on outside of an educational system. And then I can sit there outside of work and go, I'm never going to associate with this person outside of
mm,
school. But it is hard to reconcile too, knowing that there are some students that love me now,
mm.
but might not love me as much if they were to know that I'm married to a woman. And so with the kids, it's a lot easier to go, I didn't know better. They will hopefully grow up to realize, hey, you had probably several gay teachers, at least one that you loved,
Yeah,
and she wasn't evil.
right.
So that kind of helps me through knowing that I am a beloved adult in a lot of these kids' lives. And if they grow up to know anything, it's that I loved and cared for them, you know?
That's a nice thought. I'm curious with those colleagues of yours, though, the potentially the not supportive, the bigoted people, are they going around talking to you about their personal lives, or do they also keep it professional?
They have kept it professional, at least the one with the Ten Commandments poster. I have been in conversations with some people who look at me and, assume that I am not gay, right? Because I,
Yes.
I mean, I do have the privilege of being straight passing. If you don't know what the colors on this bracelet mean, I mean, I just look like a lady who teaches band. Like I look like a fine arts teacher. I have had other, and it's normally men. It's normally other men teachers who will start to talk about something political, or they'll start talking about students who are obviously queer, talking about how different they are or something that they did in their classes. And it bothers me.
Yeah.
But I try to make as much of a difference as I can in small ways. I do not like to rock the boat. I do not like to push. And so one of the teachers comes up to me and they do say something about a student who's one of mine who is noticeably different from their peers. And instead of calling out his behavior, I am logging things, I'm documenting things, I am
Mm,
giving maybe a little bit of extra love to that kid and making sure that my band hall is a safe space for them to be, because clearly social studies isn't. And if anything is said that I think needs to go up to a higher power, I'm a snitch, I'm petty. So
mhm.
I don't like to start arguments with people, but I do try to make differences in small ways, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I feel that. I used to be the exact same way on campus because I know who wants to just work among a lot of tension with colleagues, right? And so if you've got this dickhead who's saying whatever to you about whomever or whatever students, it reminded me when you were talking about that though. I recently came across this boundary coach on Instagram, Cami Orange. Shout out to Cami. And I just always remember one of her boundary phrases when someone comes up to you and says some shit that you're like, and she just simply says to say, I am not the person for you to be sharing that with. And just
I've
leave
said
it at
that to
that,
somebody before. I
right?
have
And,
said
but
somebody
it's,
to vote. Yeah.
yeah, and it's so easy
Yeah.
and it's not confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
You're just saying, I am not the person you should be sharing that with, and then walk away. And it's one of those things where I don't think that it would create an argument between you and that teacher, but who knows? Some men especially can get a little bit riled up very easily. So, but you read the room, you know who you're working with. Yeah, I don't miss those days. It is one of those things too where we are mama bears of our students. A lot of us are, right? And especially if we're empathic educators too, which I think a lot of queer people are super empathic. And so to be mama bear to these kids, and it's like, no, don't say anything about my student in any negative way. And because that stuff bleeds across a campus so quickly, even students, I think, pick up on it,
Oh yeah.
and I had that experience actually with even some of my firsties, my last year teaching. The head teacher was just this, oof, she was a very ugly individual inside and had a lot of, I guess, hate in her. I can't think of a different word to explain her. She just had a lot of bitterness in her. And her students, then it just started seeping into the kids, and the kids would be on the playground and saying mean things to one another. I'm thinking to myself, y'all are 6 years old. Who are you learning this from? Oh, wait, I know. Your teacher,
Mm-hmm.
who's an
Oh yeah.
absolute fucking nightmare. So, and who has put this woman around 6-year-olds, 6 and 7-year-olds? It's just sad. And then all these like little minions of hers are romping around the playground, and it's like, ick,
Mm-hmm.
ick.
Oh yeah. As somebody who teaches band, which maybe a third of our school is in the band program, I tell them the band kids are the best kids. You will behave. You will do your work. You have to be the person who goes and spreads positivity. And so, and it's funny because you were talking about like getting sixth graders, middle schoolers to do stuff. I'm privileged in a lot of ways, but another way that I'm privileged with these middle schoolers is that they love band.
Mm.
And so I get to use that as a carrot for them a lot, being like, "Hey, you're gonna be nice because this is a safe space, and in order to keep it safe, you're gonna do the things that I'm trying to teach you." That helps knowing that those kids that don't feel safe in one spot are like,
Yeah,
okay, I can deal with this teacher. That's fun. Getting the kids to, be better people, hopefully.
hopefully. And that is a nice carrot you can dangle over their heads. If you want to keep your place in band, yeah, be a decent human.
Yeah, no, for real. I tell them that all the time. Band kids are the best kids. And that goes for any fine art. I mean, that's it. not to get on my soapbox, but it's so important that these kids have choices
Mhm.
for their electives, right? It's
Yeah,
so important that theater programs stay active, choir programs stay active, art programs,
definitely.
that's so
De-
important for kids.
Definitely. And to give them that freedom to pick what they want. Exactly. I completely agree. Because that's where their true self is really able to come out and shine too, instead of having to take all of the required coursework, pick something you want to do and have fun with it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm wondering when a student asks you directly about your identity, how you decide what honesty looks like in the moment.
Middle school students ask in a lot of different ways,
Mm,
because they have a little more of a filter than elementary schoolers do. Not much, but they
mm.
do have more of a filter. And so sometimes kids will ask, hey, is that a lesbian flag bracelet? Yes, it is. And that's my answer to them. Yes, it is. Is that a double Venus necklace that you? Yes, it is. Or they'll ask, do you have a boyfriend? No, I do not. Are you married? Yes, I am. Do you have a husband? No, I don't. So it's
Okay.
almost like 20 questions, with them being confused as to how I'm married without a husband. You have to have a certain level of intelligence to be able to figure it out. And then once they do, it's like they've won a prize or something. They've solved a puzzle. So it's really fun. And that's normally what I get is a lot of those things where kids are trying to ask without really asking. And then sometimes they just ask flat out, are you gay? And it really depends on what kind of situation I'm in. If I'm one-on-one with a kid and they're asking me earnestly, normally when kids are asking me one-on-one earnestly, it's because they're under the umbrella too. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel comfortable telling them, yeah, I am, and this is part of me. And, do you think any less of me? And they're of course like, oh no, no, not at all, not at all. So I get those conversations. And then can I tell this story real quick
Please.
about one kid? Okay.
Yeah.
So there's this
Huh.
kid. I think I put this in the questionnaire. He's in my beginner trumpet class. He's a sixth grader and is this tough kid, and he looks and acts super tough. And I had to work a little bit at the beginning of the year to get him to trust me. And then all of a sudden when you put a trumpet in his hands, he's putty. He loves band, but he's tough, right? And so he comes up to me, he goes, I gotta tell you something, that because people are talking about you, miss. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, okay, yeah, what? Because I'm normally, you middle schoolers, you're like, okay, they're talking about your physique as a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, cool. I've already got the speech in my head. And he goes, they're saying you're a lesbian, miss. I was like, because 5 years, like that's the first time like it's gotten back to me, And so I was like, okay. And I think I laughed, and he was very worried that I was laughing. I said, well, but like, would it be bad if I was?
Mm.
And his response is something that I hear a lot of kids talk about, was that it wouldn't necessarily be bad, but it's not something he believes in, right? You get a lot of middle schoolers saying it's not what they believe in, which is
Oh,
basically
interesting.
code for them saying it makes them slightly uncomfortable, right?
Well, and it's slightly code for what they've been taught at home and what they're
Right.
hearing at home.
Right. And so, because it's like you don't have to believe in gay, but like they exist, whether you believe in them or not. But it's a matter of them being uncomfortable by it. And so what I was telling this kid was basically, I didn't confirm yes or no because he didn't ask. But I was telling him, what other people say about me has no effect on my life unless it is said directly to me. And so, kids can say things, doesn't bother me. The only thing that would bother me is if what other people had to say had an effect on how he was doing in my trumpet class.
Mm.
I told him, is people saying that I'm gay, is that gonna affect how you do in this class? And he was like, oh no, I love band. And I was like, okay, then go to the third period.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And
Yeah.
so that was a different scenario that I had to navigate this year. That was a little bit different, but it was just so funny. Miss, they're saying you're a lesbian.
Goodness.
I know, I know. For a sixth grader, that's just what an awful thing to be. I know.
The
But
end of the world.
yeah, so he's one of those kids that I think about when I'm like, okay, well, I hope that he grows up and starts putting some strings together and realizes
Mm,
that one of his favorite people in middle school was queer. So they can't be that bad.
that story that you shared is pretty hilarious and very profound because it just got me thinking and wondering what do moments like those teach you about how kids process queerness?
It's really fun to watch them process queerness in general, especially as they age, right? Because I'm in the unique position to where I get to see them through from sixth grade, and then if they choose to stay all the way through to eighth grade, and then I don't work directly with the high school, but I continue to see them as their, freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, and have a relationship with them. And so what I've noticed is that kids tend to over dramatize everything about
Mm,
love or all that cootie stuff, right? And so what I've learned is that a lot of their discomfort with that comes from just them in sixth grade specifically being uncomfortable with relationships in general,
mm, mhm,
right?
mhm,
And then as they grow, it's really interesting to see how by the time eighth grade rolls around, there's so much more like this is life about it.
mm,
There's so much like, of course, they're still dramatic, right? But it's much less life as a movie and more
mm.
domestic with it. I have eighth graders who I have this gaggle of eighth grade girls who are all, as far as I know, straight, and they all know, and they'll just come up and ask, "Hey, how's your boo thing?" And I'm like,
What? Oh my
"I know,"
gosh.
and I'm like, "Go get out your clarinet. What are you doing?" But it's really funny to see how they it goes from being such a big deal in
Hmm.
sixth grade to they're just asking you about your life like they do any other teacher in eighth grade. And that's the goal, is that they get so
Hmm.
comfortable with you that it just becomes normal, right?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
typical. And I know that's not the case with every student, especially where I am, where it can be so, my family is accepting versus my family is not accepting. Like I get a ton of that with the
Yeah.
queer kids that I teach.
It reminds me of when I was in middle school and I was at a private Lutheran middle school for seventh and eighth grade because at the end of my public sixth grade school year, a friend of mine got jumped after school and she went and told, well, obviously she told her mom that she got jumped. And then her mom told my mom. And then my mom told, I didn't even know my friend had gotten jumped. And I mean, is jumping still a thing? I don't know. And so, anyway, back then it was scary. And I said to my mom, "Oh, I'm scared. I don't want to go to this school anymore," right? For seventh and eighth grade. So she stuck me in a private school. Well, alas, here we are. And I'm around a bunch of Christian Lutheran children. And we're on our eighth grade Washington, D.C. trip. So, what? I was 12 because I hadn't turned 13 yet. And some girls on the trip from another school were calling my cousin. My cousin went to the same school I did, and we were about the same age. And they were calling my cousin a lesbian, these girls from another school. And I remember we were in a gift shop near the Statue of Liberty. And I just remember being inside this gift shop, looking at all the toys and stuff like that, thinking to myself, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what the word was. I just knew that it was bad because they were saying it behind her back and whispering it. And I just thought to myself, well, I hope they don't start saying that about me, you know? And then here,
Hmm.
years down the line, my cousin is not gay. However,
Hmm.
they had the wrong one.
Right.
But I was so scared. So I think all that fear, and I just carried it with me. For so many years, I carried that with me, that fear. It is really interesting to me to see how kids process queerness,
Oh yeah.
especially coming from really religious backgrounds.
That reminds me, I think I blocked this out. That happened to me in sixth grade. I had moved from one town to another at the very beginning of middle school, right? So I
Mm,
knew nobody
Hmm.
And the one friend that I made, people started going around saying that, we were gay. Oh my gosh. And kind of like you, I had no idea
Yeah.
that that was even an option, but I knew
Right.
it was bad because
Yeah.
like the stinky smelly boys who were the most popular were saying it.
Mm,
And so I think to look back, because middle schoolers will hold a mirror up to you and your childhood and your middle school experience, and to sit
mm,
there and think about how traumatizing that was.
yeah.
And then to sit there and tell kids now, girl, they're stupid. Why
Mm,
why am I listening to something that somebody else is saying?
right.
It's really cool to see how having like the difference having an adult with a developed brain with a
Mm,
perspective on queerness
right.
can
Yeah.
give these kids.
Mm,
Because if I had somebody to sit there and go, okay, and when I was in middle school and that had happened to me, you know,
yeah.
things might have been a little different.
Well, I just always remember my cousin's response too, because I immediately went and found her and I said, Sarah, Sarah, the girls in the other school are saying you're a lesbian. And she immediately, without pause, went, ha 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 ha. She just like laughed out loud, really obnoxiously and loudly. And I said to myself, why is she laughing? This is a bad thing. And then I always thought that she was crazy after that. I just said, she's not safe. I don't want to be around her. It's not safe to be around her. She's not taking this seriously.
Right.
She laughed it off. She couldn't have given two shits about it, you know? And there I'm still losing sleep that night in the hotel room, saying, "Oh my God, I hope no one starts saying that about me." Which is really interesting
Mhm.
because and that was the year that I had made up my little boyfriend too. Kyle, because all the boys, I mean, there's one boy who's maybe interested in me, maybe, but even the thought of kissing him, oh my God, my whole body would freeze. And I would just think to myself, no, 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 that's not right. That's not right. And then I told my best friend at the time, I said, you have to help me make up a boyfriend. He goes to a different school. I mean, this is my little 12-year-old brain. The steps I would take between that age and even 20, God, 22, 23. Oh boy. I weep for that version of myself. But we all have to go
Right.
go on our
Oh
path.
yeah.
Let's shift gears. There's another story in your questionnaire that you shared that really stayed with me, and I'm wondering if you'd be open to retelling that story here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think about this girl and her two other friends. They were like a trio, and it legitimately gets me emotional because they're seniors this year. And so anyway, I student taught in the district that I am working in now, which is pretty cool. I'm really lucky that I got to student teach, make a connection with the kids and then immediately get hired to teach them and continue building those relationships. And there was this one girl, and she was in seventh grade at the time. And her two other friends, like best friends, they were all French horn players. I got to work with them and everything. Well, when I was student teaching, they were telling me, a little bit about the kids, things that I needed to know. And they were saying that this girl in particular, she was mute. And, she's not on my roster. I don't have her paperwork. I don't have her IEP or 504. I knew that she didn't ever talk to anybody ever. Like she didn't talk to teachers. She had accommodations for it where we weren't supposed to have her in any kind of like talking situations.
Mm.
One day I wore a shirt with it was like a little rainbow flag on it. I don't remember what I did, but this girl and her friends immediately sniffed it out and they decided that I was their person from that point forward. And so this girl and one other girl in that little trio, they told me, Miss, we're gay. And I go, okay, word, cool, awesome. And they just started hanging out in my office every single morning and every single afternoon. They were like those latchkey kids,
Mm.
they just, the ones that like stick to you and then they like never let go, right? They
Oh,
were
the
there
Velcro
all
students.
Velcro students. Yes,
Mm.
Velcro. They were my Velcro students. All three of those little French horn players were in my office every single morning,
Oh my goodness.
just talking. And a lot of times they weren't even talking to me. They were just talking to each other in my
Okay.
office. It was the two gay girls and then the one straight girl, which I thought was really funny. And so they were talking about, she's got a girlfriend. Oh, well, they broke up and now the straight one's got a boyfriend and this and all. And they were so funny all the time. Well, this girl, mute the whole time. She's just communicating with her hands. She'll write things down. Well, one day in eighth grade, so like a year goes by, she just came up to me and was like, hi. She started talking. And I was
Wow.
like, I was like,
Oh my
I
gosh.
think I told her, I was like, I didn't think you could talk. Like I
Right.
think I thought in my head it was something medical, like she
Yeah.
was medically mute or something. And she always thought that was funny. And she goes, no, I didn't think anybody was really worth talking to, right? And so
Wow.
it was like an anxiety thing. And slowly, her and her two other friends, she would talk to them. She would talk to just us first, just in band. She would
Mm.
talk. And then, I had to send her on to high school, which was really hard. It's so hard to send some of these kids to high school sometimes. I've been
No.
in relationships with them for like 3 years.
Mm.
But she goes to high school and band just set her off. Like she just took off, right?
Nice.
And she ended up being a section leader for the French horn
Mm.
section. It's funny because people are like, hey, do you remember when you were mute in middle
Oh my
school?
gosh.
She talks all the time now. Like she's one of the most talkative kids I've ever met at this point as a high schooler. And that whole trio is graduating this year. It's really getting to me. I'm not gonna cry. They came back because she was part of the leadership team for high school. What they do is they'll come and they'll play with the middle schoolers every year, right? And
Mm.
so last April she came as a junior, and I'm making sure that everything's going well. Well, they leave and I go to my desk and there's a letter on my desk from her and
Mm.
the other French horn player who's also gay. And they were
Mm.
saying, thank you for making us feel like we could be who we are
Yeah.
without any kind of strings attached, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for making us feel safe. And I sobbed. It was really sweet because they're kind of my first batch of kids who've really grown up and
Right.
gone. Not only did they make a difference for me being my first little gay babies, but that I made a difference enough to where she felt comfortable to, kind of let go of being mute.
I mean,
So,
this French horn player,
mhm,
talking after years, a whole lifetime of being mute.
mhm, mhm.
I can't even imagine. It would be like the highlight of anyone's teaching career
Oh
ever.
yeah.
Full
Oh
stop.
yeah.
Full
Oh
stop.
yeah. And
I
it happened in
mean,
like my first year of teaching. Yeah. It was
so,
really sweet. It was like I think about that all the time.
but then you are specifically teaching in a state that is creating huge problems for you in your day to day. So I'm wondering what it's like teaching in a state where policies actively limit how you can support your students and especially queer and trans youth.
It's very unfair. It is very unfair. I have to try to think more about what I can do than what I can't do, or else I get so frustrated that it just ruins my entire night.
Mm.
So, SB 12 is, what everybody talks about. It went
Mm.
into effect September of this past semester. And
Mm.
basically, as far as what it does for queer and trans youth, is it restricts employees from assisting with a student's social transition. So, using different names and pronouns than their birth sex, letting them use restrooms that they want to be using, or even staff bathrooms. We're not supposed to let kids do any of that. What it's done for my district is we can only use birth certificate names,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
is gross. It's gross, even for cisgender students with preferred nicknames. Which I mean, it's sparking lawsuits all across everywhere right now with confusion over nicknames. Parental rights, LGBT support in schools, stuff like that. For me, what I've noticed is, and in my little time teaching, I really like to be the champion for kids who come out as any kind of queer to me. Because these kids who are queer, they find me and they talk to me and I try to help them. And I've had several trans students
Mm.
in the past. And I have in the past been able to use different pronouns. I've been able to call them names that they would like to be called. In specific instances, the kid talks to me and says, like, hey, my parents don't know. I'd like to try this out at school. Can you help me? And I'll sit there and go, like, I cannot tell anybody anything unless it is you saying that you are going to hurt yourself or others, basically.
Mm.
Like I tell them, like, hey, confidentiality, like I'm not gonna go tell your parents. I'm not gonna, like I'll help you with a way to talk to them so that it's not
Mm.
as scary. Like we can talk through those things. But now if I think a kid needs specific help, I can't use their preferred pronouns or their names in an email or I get written up.
Yeah.
I can't put any of it down on paper. Like I can't log any of it. I can't if I'm emailing a kid's mom and I use they them pronouns and it gets sticky, like the parent hates it and brings it to the school district.
Yeah.
My school district in particular is so afraid of legal action that they will do anything and everything not to have any kind of legal beef with the parent. This year in particular, I had a kid come to me and they were telling me, Miss, I hate my body. I wish that I could, just all of these things that I would have had more power to help with a
Mm.
year ago.
Yeah.
That I go to our counselor and I go, what can I do for this kid? And she tells me nothing.
Nothing.
She says, you can't. This kid asked me, hey, I would like to start being called by this name. That was very close to their first name, but not quite.
Mm.
Can you help me tell my teachers? Can you send an email to my teachers saying that this is the name I want to be called by? And I'm sorry, I can't. And not only can I not send an email to your teachers, but I can't even call you the name that you are wanting to be called.
Yikes.
Which is devastating to tell a kid, right? And so,
Totally.
but like I said, I'm trying to think of things that I can do instead of things that I can't. A lot of times, what I'm doing, especially for those kids, is being like, "Hey, I can call you by your last name because it's
Oh,
still technically your birth certificate name."
yeah, that's a good
Now,
idea.
if a parent doesn't like it, and I haven't come across that yet, but the counselors did tell me if a parent doesn't like it, I have to stop, right?
Jeez, yeah.
But
Mm.
it's been to where like I can call them by their last name. I still can't email other teachers and be like, hey, this kid wants to be called by their last name. It's got to be the kid who
Wow.
says it. What is the purpose
I
of this,
know.
right? What is
Control.
point, right? What I've seen is that they're trying to give some of the control back to the parents, right? But for me, what I've noticed is I have a cisgender boy in one of my beginner classes goes by his middle name, and teachers will not call him by his middle name because they are
Wow.
scared.
Wow,
And
yeah.
so mom has to send a message saying, like, hey, he wants to be called this. He's told you he wants to be called this.
Oh
And
my
so at
gosh.
that point, she meets with the and he's cisgendered, so it's fine, right?
And it's
But
a whole
still,
thing though, even for him, just to
it's
go by
still
his
a
middle
whole
name.
thing. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, what if it's about parental control? No, it's not, right? No, it's not.
Jeez.
And so if you get down to what it actually is doing, it is trying to take power away from children to prove that they are not real people, right?
Yeah.
Just teaching them early how much control others actually have,
Mm.
to the point where like people aren't going to out loud. I think one of the biggest things they are trying to do is cause kids, trans kids that are already susceptible to mental health issues
Yeah.
to not
Mm.
exist anymore, right?
That's a very large possibility. I was thinking a similar thought, not exactly along that line, but really thinking that the powers that be in your state really are trying to break these kids and, with all these laws that are targeted against them, to tell them that whatever they want doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Whatever they would like to have happen doesn't matter. It's going to worsen mental health crises for sure and potentially more self-harm. What is interesting to me is since Texas and Florida are all, they seem like buddy buddy in their policies, especially anti-queer policies, that even Florida has that stupid form. I did a whole TikTok on it's like a 9-word form, parental authorization for student name deviate, whatever it's called, that parents fill out to say, this is my son Timothy, and he wants to go by Tim, and that's on file. But it doesn't even sound like Texas has a form like that. It's so
It's
stupid.
really dumb.
And it's so clear that everyone y'all have in your state government, the vast majority of them are morons. And it's one of those things too. I was looking into SB 12 more also, and it's now illegal to even have a GSA on campus. You can't have
Hmm.
any clubs on campus that are based on student sexuality or gender. And I said, wow. So now there's no support group, right, for queer
Hmm.
kids on campuses now in Texas
Hmm.
with the passing of this. And then I said to myself, well, people have to get smart and create a kindness club or, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Friendship club, or I don't know,
Yep.
something that's gonna be a workaround
Hmm.
because to leave all the queer kids hanging who are in a GSA, and not saying that there are even that many GSAs probably in Tejas anyway, but just to give the kids the opportunity to be in a club like that if they want to. Gosh, it's so top down, heavy handed, morons at the top, fear filled idiots who are making
Yeah.
these laws that are affecting hundreds, possibly thousands of Texan students. It's very irksome. It's very upsetting. And I don't think
Yeah. Absolutely.
you don't have enough people in your state government who will fight for the rights of these queer children, students, people.
Which is why it's so important to have spaces, like you were saying, workarounds. A lot of queer kids find their community at school in those extracurricular activities. Not to be like, I'm important, but it does help me stay.
Yeah,
Knowing that I get to be who I needed when I was in middle school.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. I had a teacher at that Lutheran school, and students were gossiping about her that she was a lesbian. I was her after school helper. She's my English teacher, very dykey looking. And I would take the erasers out and dust out the chalk, right? Because a Lutheran school, I guess they didn't have a big budget for whiteboards, I guess. Who knows? Because were around. I had a
Right.
whiteboard actually at my house. And once the kids in my class said, she's a lesbian. Also, what is all this stuff about lesbians at the fucking Lutheran school? You know, it's just like I'd never heard the word before. Now all of a sudden, middle school, I'm really curious if I would have stayed at the public school, if I would have heard lesbian as much as I did at the Lutheran school there, you know, I'm just, and so I told her, I said, I can't work for you anymore. I had this inherent fear in me from the get-go with the word. And so I stopped working for her. I was making good money too. Looking back
Yeah.
at her, I'm 90% sure she was queer. I mean, but, and very nice.
Yeah.
And I wonder if times had been different, not that times are even different right now, if she had been able to be honest and authentically herself and be open and honest with us, yes, I'm gay, blah, blah, if I wouldn't have been so scared as a queer young adult, like really being checked out of that queer side, right? My queerness for years and years and years. I wasn't gay. I think I was just, it was safer to be
Mm.
asexual than gay. I think it's really important for kids, you know, to have gay role models in any capacity, and especially why not at school? Hello? That's where they spend most of their days, you
Most
know?
of their day, yeah.
Yeah.
Spend more time at school than they do at home.
Right. And if we say, oh, well, kids today, they have a lot more queer role models on TV, in media, there's such a separation between real life and that. So we need, and I remember Portia de Rossi saying this years ago, we need everyone to come out. The barbers, the trash man, the USPS clerk, the whomever, everyone, so that it is normal, so that it is no longer a thing, so that I maybe wouldn't
Right.
have to have this podcast. No, not that I have to have this podcast, but
Thank you for having this podcast.
thank you for coming on this podcast. But maybe then there wouldn't be a need for podcasts like this to exist. Just getting to a place of it just not being
Right.
other, different,
Yeah.
wrong, just the stigma. And I've been making videos now talking about the stigma, because I think I've gotten my hooks into something, and
Mhm.
I'm going with the stigma thing. And it's like once we can reduce the stigma, still to this day in so many parts of our country and the world, if you're gay, there's a stigma. There's something wrong with us.
Right.
Until that stigma is no more, I will do what I'm doing.
Exactly. Especially with teachers, because we come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, backgrounds, all that stuff. And I know I was saying earlier with looking straight passing too, I feel like when kids find out
Yeah,
that I'm gay or when they ask and I tell them, it kind of takes a second in their brain to be like, oh, this is what a gay person can look like. Okay, cool.
right.
So the
Yes,
just the
exactly.
more people who everybody needs to come out, everybody
Yeah.
just come out, everybody,
Come come
when
out
it's safe.
wherever you are. So what keeps you going back to your classroom even when the greater system is feeling heavy?
I think it's what I was talking about earlier with the whole being what I needed when I was in middle school. Because when I was in middle school, I was in a very rigid, like, this is who you are type community. I didn't even know that being gay was an option for a really long time. It was very late when I realized that that was a thing. There are times when I look at not teaching as an option and I really consider it, and then I look back and I go, okay, well there's 260 kids who
Mhm.
need to come to a class and get out an instrument and learn how to do something that's not math or English, taught by somebody who they can see themselves in, whether they're queer or not. Because I do try my best as a music teacher, as a teacher in general, just to make these kids better at what they want to be better at. I am a facilitator of success for them. And so watching them play hot cross buns for the first time, there's nothing like it, right? Watching a kid come up to me and tell me that band is their favorite thing, or that I'm the first gay teacher that they've ever had that they know of. As the world is so crazy, it's something that I can do.
Mm.
That keeps me going back to work because band is fun and kids are fun and middle schoolers are great. Middle schoolers are so fun and funny and malleable.
I love how you said you see yourself as a facilitator of success. I think you should put that on your resume. Facilitator of success.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think I'm going to put that on my
truthfully,
resume.
yeah, I think that's what all teachers are.
I love it. I agree. What's your main instrument that you play? Is it the trumpet?
My main instrument that I started on in sixth grade is actually the French horn,
Oh
right? Like we were
wow.
talking about in that other story. But when you go to college for music, they make you play everything. So I'm actually
Wow.
certified to teach choir, orchestra, band. So I know how to do all of that stuff. No,
Fun.
I say I know, but they tell you that you only have to be like a week ahead of the kids. So
Okay.
if I had to go and teach an orchestra, I just have to be like a week better than you
Okay.
than the violin, and then I'm good. But as far as all of the band instruments go, and I mainly teach all of like the brass instruments, so trumpet, horn,
Okay.
tuba, stuff like
Trombone.
that. So yeah, yeah, trombone.
I did dance guard in high school, so like flag team. And
Yeah,
so we were always around the band room, especially, on Friday nights before football games and all that. It was always such a loud space, in my opinion. And I'm wondering if you wear earplugs. Are you allowed to? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yes, it's funny that you say that because there's this big music conference coming up in a couple weeks, and band is big in Texas. So this is the Texas Music Educators Association convention, and there are probably going to be about 7 or 8 booths of ear
Oh,
protection,
really?
like different people with ear protection. Yeah, because especially when you get into high school, like the marching band, like you were talking about with
Yeah.
like the flags and stuff, that can get super loud. On a day-to-day
Mm.
basis, I don't. I probably should.
Well, as we're wrapping things up, would you like to share with everyone what gay thing or things you're doing these days?
Yes, I would. So, apart from everything, right? Because everything I do is gay. The biggest thing that I've been doing right now, and I'm about to be just a little bit serious for a second because it feels like the world is on fire. You know, I have a wife, I have a kid, we have jobs that we have to keep so that we can protect and be there for the communities that we've become so close to. The gayest things that we've been doing is using some of our extra income to donate to places like the
Mm.
Human Rights Campaign, as well as places. We've been looking a lot into places that are helping the communities that are being attacked by ICE right now.
Mm.
So, one that we're looking at in our area is just the Human Rights Initiative of North Texas.
Okay.
We've been looking into and, donating as much as we can and seeing what kind of things that they're doing. But all it takes is a quick Google search to find out where funds can be given in any community. So, that is the gayest thing I'm doing right now is finding ways to help because it's scary out there.
I love that. Yeah, it really is getting real. I mean, shit has been getting real over this past year, but it's getting realer. It affects all of us,
Mhm.
and I think we're all frozen in this. Well, what can I as one person do?
Mhm.
And the thing I keep saying to all my friends is, I can't fucking do anything as one person. It is going to take our country
Yeah.
coming together like the French
Mhm. Exactly.
to stop all of this. I mean,
Yeah.
if every Californian had rallied together and met ICE that first fucking day or that
Yeah.
first week,
Yeah.
we might be in a different situation right now. I would
Exactly.
imagine we would be in a different situation right
Right.
now. We all have to come together. That's the only
Yeah.
way that anything's going to change because
Yeah.
when we've got masses of hundreds of thousands of people, okay, then we will be able to make a change and stop
Yeah.
what's happening. Yeah.
But the biggest thing is, what can I do? And that's what I've come to right now is like for right now, all I did was go and do just like a quick Google search on the best places in my area. So,
Nice. Well, Alex, we had a very intense conversation toward the end.
yes. Sorry about that.
You have been my most intense guest yet. I'm gonna have to come up with awards for you all this season
Right.
too, and you will get most intense guest. No, at the end of the season, I'll have an award ceremony. Put it on TikTok, and I'll be sending you all your digital awards. No.
Yes.
I love that idea because I used to love giving my students awards all throughout the year. Just random little things this
That's
week.
cute. Yeah.
Just random fun stuff to keep it fresh, new, lively, whatever. But thank you so much for coming on. And I've
You. Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And it's always a pleasure to talk with another queer educator from Texas.
There's a lot of us. Yeah.
There are a lot of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're welcome back anytime. I'm guessing season 5 with as many people I need to interview, but
That's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you. Seriously, I know I've told you this before in our messages, but the fact that you're, coordinating all of this and putting on this project like you've called it, it's really cool and really great. And I've loved getting to sit and think about, what it means to be a queer educator and prep for this conversation. So just thank you for putting all of this together. It's super awesome.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and here comes the outro music. Bye, everyone. Stay gay.